with lived experience. It provides compelling evidence that the availability of drugs in our region has increased, accompanied by a concerning rise in the potency of these substances. This underscores the urgency of coordinated, multi-sectoral responses to an evolving and complex challenge. Notably, there has been a growth in online drug markets with the increased use of social media platforms as marketplaces. Drug markets have also grown and diversified in face of movement restrictions related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The region's drug markets are becoming increasingly diverse, expansive, and integrated into sophisticated international networks. Worryingly, substances such as heroin, cocaine, and synthetic drugs are now widely accessible across Eastern and Southern Africa, with use reported not only in major urban centers, but also in secondary towns and rural settlements. International drug supply chains are also no longer merely transiting through our region. They are now directly servicing domestic markets, which continue to witness a steady rise in the number of users. This evolving dynamic calls for urgent, coordinated, and strategic responses at both national and regional levels. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in Kenya, we recognize that drug problem is a pressing and multifaceted challenge, one that continues to threaten the well-being of our youth, strain our public health systems, and demand extensive law enforcement resources. The rising prevalence of substances such as cannabis, heroin, cocaine, and synthetic drugs is deeply concerning, particularly as we see growing rates of use among young people across both urban and rural communities. Kenya's position as a regional economic hub with an open door policy that fosters global engagement, advanced transport and communication infrastructure, and a well-developed financial sectors has regrettably also made us vulnerable. Our country now faces dual reality of being both a destination and a transit point for illicit drug originating from other parts of the world. Despite our robust anti-drug legislation and enforcement efforts, the influx of substances such as marijuana, heroin, and cocaine continue unabated with profound impacts on our communities. Of increasing concern is the emergence of synthetic drugs, often manufactured in clandestine laboratories operating within the region. This troubling development is largely Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, while legislative reforms are necessary, they alone are insufficient. We must move beyond traditional approaches rooted in criminalization, incarceration, stigma, and exclusion. Evidence shows that prohibitionist policies have not effectively disrupted illicit markets. In fact, they often exacerbate harm by alienating those most in need of our help. Therefore, we must pursue a more balanced, health-centered, and human rights-based approach, one that addresses not just supply and enforcement, but also the underlying social and economic drivers of drug use. Sustainable solutions will require us to reframe drug policy as both a public health and a development priority. As we reflect on the insight of this report and the leadership of the Eastern and Southern African Commission on Drugs, let us rededicate ourselves to this fight. Kenya Families believes that access to evidence-based treatment for drug dependence is not a privilege, but a universal right. This principle guides our ongoing transformation of the national health delivery system, an ambitious reform agenda aimed at making healthcare affordable, inclusive, and accessible to all without exception. In this regard, your recommendation on the establishment of regional drug observatory mechanism under the Eastern and Southern Africa Commission on Drugs to serve as a critical platform for cross-border intelligence sharing, early warning systems, and regional coordination Southern Africa. Asanteni sana. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Kipchuma Murkomen, on delivering the address from His Excellency, Dr. William Ruto. Now the question, where from here? Now that findings have been made and recommendations made and clear action plans, what do we do? Start from national responses, regional responses, continental responses, and a global response. But within that, you must always bear in mind the question of national sovereignty of states, which means somehow, perhaps, our esteemed commission might be given a task if I had that power and authority. I would suggest that perhaps time has come for the commission to engage the sitting presidents of the region and their executives for purposes of ensuring that you are able to then implement these recommendations. That if I had the power and authority, I would request the commission so that we take it a step further. Can you give all the speakers a round of applause, please? Is the round of applause an indication of acceptance to implement the recommendations and the action plans? Can you have another round of applause? Kenya has already been committed because I see the Honorable Minister is also clapping. Perhaps before we break for tea, I've got one announcement to make because we're going to break for tea and we have another session after tea. We are going to have a group photo session, which will be on the ground floor. And then